Hey, quick review of Burn For Me, number one in the Hidden Legacy series by Alona Andrews, which is a husband and wife team of writers that go under the name Alona Andrews. It is, as you can tell by the cover, very kind of it's urban fantasy romance. You've got the bare-chested dude on the cover and the gorgeous woman, blonde with kind of honey brown skin. Doesn't dye her hair, but it's just, her general genetic mix. This takes place in a world where I think it's the 19th century, a serum was invented which gave the people that they gave it to magical powers, and the nations of the world used this to kind of arm their soldiers because they saw it as, quite rightly, as a kind of a power thing, because you have the power of telekinesis and fire and truth seeking and just basically all your kind of just magical powers of various teleportation, things like that. So that's happened, and this world has created from it, which is not too indistinguished. It feels like a very much a 2014 world, but with magic users being the main people of in power. We don't get super deep into the weeds of world building here. Generally, there does seem to be basically a magical power structure that kind of overarches the government, and that if you don't have magic powers, well, you're not going to have any, you're not really going to have power in this society. Though some of the characters do seem to kind of go with the ideas of democracy and stuff like that. It's like, it is one of those things you can get into the weeds, like, well, if there's super magic users, like, how did the American Revolution happen? How did that affect something like the Civil War? This is all taking place in Houston. Where yes, Nevada Baylor is a PI, and her family, which we get to kind of meet her mother and grandmother and a couple of her sisters and brother. They're all it's this very kind of struggling PI firm. The father has died of cancer a while ago, and they went into debt, and they are now thus a powerful house holds the mortgage on basically on their business, on their properties and stuff like that. And when they come calling, they have to snap to, which is indeed what happens here. Nevada gets pulled into this situation where a kind of a golden bad boy of one of the families, Adam Pierce, has apparently done a bank job and killed a cop, and now the police are after him to kill him. But the Pierce family does not want that to happen. They've snapped their fingers, and the family that owns Baylor's thing has said, like, oh yeah, we'll get on that. And they say, well, crap, he is super powerful. We don't want to waste our own people, so we'll use somebody expendable, like Nevada's PI firm, to track them down. On paper, they look like, oh, very competent, but this is way out of their league. She does not have. It turns out that she has at least represented herself to the magic community as being a magic dud, not someone who doesn't have magical powers. Her mother has sharpshooter abilities, but she got injured in the army, and while she's a great sharpshooter, she's also can't move around great. There's various other magical powers. Nevada herself, actually, it turns out she has a very handy magical power, which at least at the beginning gets represented as a pretty modest one, where she can tell if people are telling the truth or not. If they yes or no questions, if they lie, she can go truth, lie immediately, and she can do this pretty unerringly, so which is pretty handy talent for a PI. So she reluctantly accepts the case, because if she doesn't, there'll be the thing. There's a proviso in there that if she gets killed in the line of duty, that they'll allow her mother to buy the company back from the Montgomery for $1. And so it enters in the case. Unfortunately, there is another magic user, a prime. In this world, primes are the ones who they're the super powerful superheroes on this thing. If Nevada is people, there's a lot of people running around with like Forkman. Well, these are the Supermen. This is the Incredible Hulk. This is Thor. This is Superman. This is Wonder Woman kind of level as primes in magical terms. And one of these is Mad Dog Rogan, and he has been contacted by mother of one of Adam's co-conspirators who seems to have gotten pulled into this plot, who can teleport things, and his power was used during this heist. And her mother wants this guy back, wants her son back, goes to Mad Dog, who is related to them, it's like a cousin, has decided, yes, okay, I will do that. And so he knows he can't find the kid, but he's like, everyone's looking for Adam, I'm gonna find Adam. Hey, Nevada, he's actually doing a very good job of seemingly to catch Adam's interest. Adam, who is an egomaniacal psychopath, who says like, oh, you're a bit of a challenge, I'm gonna go after you. And so Mad Dog, who is this brooding guy who has power over matter, went into the army and was called and caused great destruction, killed many people in various wars. Has this kind of reputation, and it's like people are like, oh, and he is animalistically, massively built, and just like, he's the kind of guy that comes into the room and everybody's eye swings to him, and all the women just like are like that. Or at least I guess all the straight women are like that. This is very kind of heteronormative female fantasy novel, fantasy in the fantasy kind of way. Nipples tighten a lot in this novel. And so they have to team up. Now she's like, she resists him and but just can't help but every time he comes in just being super attracted to him. And he seems to have like interests in her that are maybe go beyond just simply using her as another one of his tools. He's a very ruthless guy who just seems to use people and tools. But they do team up to try and find this Adam guy who seems like he is just kind of a playboy daredevil, but seems to be involved in a plot which involves magical artifacts, which is going to cause massive destruction, Armageddon, which seems way out of Adam's pay grade for what he would do. This is the kind of a guy who gets involved in bar fights and does big dramatic gestures and kind of glories in like, hey, aren't I a bad guy? But all dependent on the fact that his rich family will bail him out in the end, but doesn't seem like somebody who would be on this level. So there seems to be mysterious forces going in the background. So yeah, it is a fun, snappily written novel, not particularly deep. It's probably much more about that kind of feeling of frisson between Nevada and Mad Dog, of like, their desires, and there indeed is a magic touch desire in this book with a kind of with a feedback loop on it, which is going to make the sex even better. It's not like super graphic. There are, as I said, tightening nipples, but it is definitely a hot and heavy book that way. There's a lot of things in this which I guess kind of, it's going to vary in your taste of like kind of submission and domination and how you feel about that sort of stuff. Whether, when someone says no, it actually is going to mean no. And there's a little bit of a waveriness there, but that's kind of gets into the kind of messiness of desire and the messiness of a fantasy book about desire, and how seriously you're going to take this as a guide to young gentlemen and young ladies, and how they should behave with each other, and how they should, of course, properly get consent and stuff like that as they go along. And also, Mad Dog, in addition to being incredibly good looking, brooding, super powerful, is also a billionaire. So it's that kind of a fantasy book. In that kind of, besides the magic, it is that kind of fantasy book, and I kind of enjoyed it, reading it as a guy, just kind of like, oh, this is, it's always nice to remind myself, hey, it's like, hey, women have desires too. Women have what might be considered on one level kind of slightly embarrassing scenarios that they run in their head, that they might be like, yeah, but it turns me on even if it is kind of embarrassing, that sort of thing. So it was a fun book. I actually came to this series by reading number 4 first, and then I guess it was light enough, it was enough for popcorn, that I happened to find it on audio at my library, and I listened to this, and I enjoyed myself. It was fun. It was one of those things like, if I want a light, fun read, I will definitely go back to the Ilona Andrews series. All right. That's my review. More videos later.